Wolfpack, nice little Bitcoin update coming up today. As you guys will know, Bitcoin is still in the same price region. It is holding on to the 200-week SMA, and that's the most interesting thing about it at this point. And it really is, because look, this thing should be topped out. If the charts had anything to say for it, that was an M formation, right? That there, the peak, first peak on this side here, and the second peak over here. Going into resistance at around 23.8k to 24.2k. That is the major resistance zone. We saw that M formation. We came back down. We tested the 200-week SMA, this green line, right? Which is the 200-week applied to the daily chart. And of course, the 200-week SMA, you guys would know what it is. It's this major macro line that holds for support generally during bear markets. We've lost it in this bear market now. We've come back above it now, and we're retesting it from the upside. Now, like, we would have expected it to be lost, but we're actually holding it, and we're holding it quite consistently. And if we're looking at the volume, we can see that the red volume, so the downside candles on the volume are actually depreciating in volume per candle. So ever since around 5 or 6 days ago, we did top out on the daily chart. We've come down, and in the time we've come down, the volume is decreased on each red candle, generally speaking, in a trend. So what this means is that, yeah, the selling pressure is there, and the selling pressure is stronger than the buying pressure. However, the selling pressure is depleting as we head into support, which is generally an indicator that you bounce. So that's interesting, right? That's really interesting. I mean, if we have an example of that, a great example of that would be here, right? 26th of June to around the 2nd of July. We saw red candles, right? We saw the volume increasing massively during those red candles, which meant that, yeah, we were going down, and also the downwards trend was getting stronger because more and more volume was coming in. And then the one day we saw a very low amount of volume marked the day we bottomed out, and then we actually started an uptrend from there. So it's interesting, right? It's interesting that we're not, as bearish as we would think it would be at this point. And for that reason, I'm kind of in a bit of a mixed area for Bitcoin, right? If we're looking at, for example, the RSI, we actually saw that this RSI triangle, you're seeing it right now. I've got this like kind of, I guess, almost like a triangle formation, very, very slowly, going into each other. They're not quite parallel lines. They're converging into each other very slowly. We saw a double rejection. Okay, double rejection off the top of that RSI line. And obviously at the same time we saw the M formation with lower time frames on Bitcoin, for example, the hourly chart M formation here. And so we would have expected to lose the 200 week. We didn't lose the 200 week. We're holding on to it still. And so I would assume that until we drop below the 200 week SMA, or until we break clearly above 23.8k on the daily chart, there's really nothing to be done, right? And I would say that this is for sure, I mean, there's no doubt about it, this is a no trade zone. You should not be trading in this region. And yeah, altcoins like the V.I.P group, for example, we trade altcoins daily. It doesn't matter where the market is. But like, generally speaking, for the average person here, you shouldn't be trading here, right? Why? Well, because we're not dropping that support as easily as we thought we would, and we're not breaking that resistance as easily as the bulls thought we would, right? So we're in this gray area where we're just kind of lurking. And in order for something to happen, we need to drop below the 200-week SMA on the daily, on the weekly probably, right? Which means that in 4 days, where's that weekly chart? In 4 days when that weekly candle closes, it would need to close below the 200-week, which means it would need to close below around 22.8k. And then we would basically be confirming another move downwards to the bottom of this channel at around 20k. Or the alternative is we break to the upside, right? And we close the weekly above 23.8k. And if that happens, we've got a clean shot to 28.6k. And if we get to 28.6k and we break above that, well, that's back in, that's out of bear market territory there. That's a confirmation the bottom was in at 17. So, massive gray area for Bitcoin. And the macro situation doesn't make it any better. In fact, it just makes it a bit more confusing. Because, yeah, we've got this confusing price action now. Rejected on the RSI, double top formation, but we're holding support with low volume. So that's super confusing. And then we move into something like, for example, the S&P 500, which is obviously dictating where Bitcoin goes at this point, because this massive upwards trend on the S&P 500 basically propelled Bitcoin to the upside. And that's obviously because it's reflecting the macro situation. So in a sense, the macro situation is affecting Bitcoin, not the S&P. But the point is, the macro situation is indicating that the market should be pumping, and hence they're pumping here. But this is another thing. It's like, well, the S&P 500 is very strong. It's moving upwards very quickly, but it's moved upwards straight into a thick area of resistance. So realistically speaking, the S&P 500 should be rejecting here. And then if we look at the DXY's broken a descending wedge to the upside, but it's had like 3 fake outs, so who knows what's going on there. And then the bond yields, for example, is in a pennant formation consolidating. yeah, this is a bullish pennant formation, so it should be going upwards, which would be bearish for the markets and send Bitcoin downwards, but it's still consolidating, so we don't actually know yet. We haven't got a confirmed breakout yet. So the entire market, and this is really all I can say about this video, because it is a bit of a ridiculous time. The entire market, in a certain sense, is just sitting in no man's land, sitting in a place in which you shouldn't be trading anything, and just waiting. And I think, honestly, what it's waiting for, and this is just my personal prediction, what it's waiting for is CPI. Right? CPI will be releasing in 5 to 6 days. And as you guys will know, let's get an inflation chart up quickly. The inflation rate in the United States of America is around 9.1% year on year at the moment. But we have seen things like oil prices start to tank. Oil prices have actually tanked a lot. Not oil, but gas prices, sorry, start to tank a lot. And oil as well. And I think that this, generally speaking, is an indicator that inflation might not have topped per se, but might be very near topping. And that might explain why we're seeing these pumps in the traditional markets here. But I think CPI coming out in 6 or 5 days will clear this up, right? If CPI comes in higher, it's pretty much a pretty good indicator that Bitcoin will continue downwards. If it comes in lower, or even shows signs of slowing down, like it comes in slightly higher, that just might add fuel to this rally and send Bitcoin further to the upside, right? Because I think that in reality, the only explanation for this pump on Bitcoin, it doesn't really seem like it should be happening in terms of the charts. And we know that because of the 4-year cycle theory, right? But the only explanation for this pump really is for traditional markets. Like maybe something has happened behind the scenes with inflation particularly, or with interest rates, that has led to this reaction. Now we do know, and the reason why I can say that is because we do know that, for example, the traditional markets do act before the macro, right? So for example, the first interest rate hike, was later than January, but we topped out on the S&P 500 in January, right? So it took a few months for the macro to catch up to the markets. The markets kind of foreshadow what's going to happen in the macro. So if the S&P 500, for example, started dropping before the macro looked bad, it can start bottoming before the macro looks good. So maybe we're seeing that bottom now. It's all speculation at this point. And that's what I don't like about this situation. I think the next few days is going to be very frustrating for us as investors and traders. But there's really nothing else to say. I think all we can really do at this point is just wait and see what happens in regards to the 200-week SMA or 23.8K. So a daily candle above 23.8K, in my opinion, would be very good. And then a weekly candle below 200-week SMA would be very bad. I think that's how we should be looking at the situation right now. And I think that anything in between, you should be focusing on lower time frame altcoin trades, right? Lower time frame altcoin trades, or if you're very risk averse, you don't like risk, just wait. At the end of the day, the market can only range between 22.8K and 23.8K for a certain period of time, right? Realistically, it's not going to range here much longer. This isn't a very unsustainable price region for it to be in. When you get these no man's land kind of consolidation patterns where it's just ranging in between areas that no one really knows whether it's definitively bullish or bearish, it doesn't last, right? I think already we've kind of maxed out how long it can be here. I think we're kind of on borrowed time in this region here, but realistically, with CPI coming up in 5 to 6 days, I think that's the absolute maximum amount of time it can take to just stay in this region. But honestly, I would expect a break up or down sooner than that. I'm thinking the next 2 or 3 days here, we will be seeing something. That's interesting stuff. We just need to wait and see what happens. I know it's frustrating, but that's sometimes how the market is. So without further ado, I'll end the video there. And we're going to look at Wolves Crypto VIP. So if you want to join up, become a VIP member, trade those altcoins like I've been talking about in this video. We do an altcoin trading signal every second day. Go to the YouTube homepage, click on the join button, and we post those altcoin trading setups to YouTube. But only the people who are VIPs can access those videos. We've also got prioritized reply to comments, so I'll prioritize replying to a VIP member's comments over a normal subscriber's comments. We've got a trading psychology lecture, which is incredibly useful, and then we've got exclusive access to a Telegram group. Join up to that if you guys are interested. We've also got the BitGet Exchange, and I want to go ahead and say, everyone who watches this video right now who trades cryptocurrency should sign up to this exchange, right? It's really a no-brainer. This exchange has half the fees of Binance. Half the fees of Binance. Binance is meant to be the cheapest exchange. It's also non-KYC, so government regulation doesn't affect you. Also, it's good for tax reasons. And again, government regulation doesn't affect you. It's decentralized to a certain extent. Now, it's not fully decentralized, but you on an individual end are decentralized using this exchange. I don't know what else you need to join an exchange. Go ahead and join up using my referral link in the description below. You're supporting the channel in doing that, and you're also benefiting yourself because you're getting access to a reward center using my referral link. So, go ahead and do that. I don't know what to say. It's a no-brainer. And then we've got the Crypto Academy, a company developed by myself and Mega Crypto, teaching people how to trade through the Become a Trader 10-unit course. If you're interested in learning how to trade, check out the website and send us an email here at cryptoacademycourses@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you with all the relevant information. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.